Thanks for joining the Anthony Atiase Experience. My name is Anthony Atiase. I've got a special guest today, and I'm super excited to have her on. I have Beverly Adaeze on the line. She's a content creator, social media personality, host, and speaker who uses her platform to share her life journey. And she's best known for her creative and comedic skits, which showcase her Nigerian American experience. Welcome to the show, Beverly.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it. Beverly, I always start with the first question. When we talk about people's stories and their journey, what was your upbringing like growing up?
I feel like my upbringing was typical Nigerian, really the upbringing that most Nigerians have. So I came to the United States when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
My mom, she won the visa lottery, so we came here, and we started from scratch. The first year we lived in Dallas, and my mom basically was like a nanny for like a family friend. So that whole year she just worked with them, and we got to live with them until we now transferred over to Houston, and we had our apartment. It was me, my mom, my dad, and we just worked our way up. Went to school, was made fun of for just being the African kid. Of course, your mom is cooking strong African meals, and sometimes it ends up on your clothes. And so I feel like I don't think I was proud to be African, because kids can be cool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until I went to university that I was like, you know what? Like you see the organizations, the African student organizations and all these things. And it's like, whoa, it's actually cool to be Nigerian. It's cool to be African. And you learn that your country, your continent is so rich in culture. And so I think that's really when I started to bloom.
It is so amazing. You just said that about the pride, because I think about similar to you growing up, where my mom would cook rice and stew and say, take that to school, and I was embarrassed to have that for lunch, and I would trade that with some of the other kids for their peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Right.
And now I think back, I really appreciated that. So it's interesting you mentioned that. Obviously, you've got a great sense of humor. Have you like always been like that, just growing up? Did people point it out saying, hey, you know what, you're pretty funny?
You know what? They say hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
And so once I started doing my like skits and everything, I remember a few people reached out from high school and they were like, oh girl, I'm not surprised that you're doing all these funny things because you used to have me cracking up back in class and all that. And so it's crazy because I guess back then I was just being myself. I didn't really notice. And so when they said that, I was like, wow, it's actually true. Like my friends who were around me, they would always be laughing. And I didn't really think anything of it. And so
No, and what did your parents, did they, when you were growing up, say, hey, you're a funny girl, or how did that work out?
well, I don't even think they really knew that I had the gift
Yeah.
really until my skits because
Wow.
I was an only child for 14 years. And a lot of African parents, they are, they provide, financially, they provide you clothes and everything, they send you off to school, but they don't really spend time getting to know their children because they're so busy just working to provide for their children that they don't really get the time to spend. So a lot of times I'll just come home, eat, and then just kind of go back to my like room. And so I didn't really get to talk to my parents in a way that, let's say, like an American kid gets to know their parent. And so they didn't really know. They didn't really, they didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's weird because and then because I didn't have siblings too until I was about 14, you don't really get like if I'm interacting with a sibling, then my humor can kind of come out. But who am I going to interact with, right? Is it my African parents that I'm going to joke with, and they'll be like, "Okay, go to your room."
Absolutely. So, you went to college, like you mentioned, and you you were doing your skits, obviously. What point did you blow up? Which I know you had. I looked at some of the skits that you had before about putting the lotion, African versus
Yeah,
America. Was that the one? Which skit like really?
that was the first one that
Okay.
I posted. See, because I helped out with the drama club at my African student organization.
Mhm.
But that one was the first time I posted any kind of skit on social media. But I mean, and it did really well.
Yeah,
And
it did.
so I just kept posting more. But really during the pandemic, gosh, I mean, a lot of them, they did well. But I think during the pandemic, a lot of people, they needed something to watch, they needed something to do. So that was
Mhm.
when like I was dropping videos because I had more time and people were watching like wildfire because like things were just booming because people just needed something to do. So I really feel like the pandemic is when it skyrocketed, but even before that, I think I was still doing pretty good.
No, that's great. And you've obviously incorporated travel in your skits. When did the travel bug hit? Did you always want to travel? When did that happen?
I studied abroad right before I graduated from university.
Mhm.
And so once I did that, my first time studying abroad, I went to Spain and I realized, wow, so there's more to this world than Texas and Nigeria. And so my first study abroad trip, I actually backpacked. So I took a backpack for 10 days. After my program was over, I went from Spain to Italy and I started from
Mm.
the top and I backpacked my way down. I took trains and everything, made it down to Rome. Then I went to the Czech Republic when I came back. So I think those 10 days just showed, and I was by myself, young Black girl by herself. I know my mom was praying, praying down the whole United States, but I was like, wow, I really like this. I like seeing how other people live. And so from then on, the travel bug has been on me ever since.
It's amazing you just said that, well, you actually backpacked. So you had this no fear, I'm gonna do it, right?
Yeah.
And when you think about society and they talk about travel and women and even women of color traveling alone, like wasn't there some kind of anxiety or fear? Like how did you do that?
I think my mindset was, listen, this ticket to Europe was expensive.
Yeah.
I'm a broke college student. I don't have money to buy another ticket. So this is the time to just use this opportunity because it's cheap to travel within Europe. So
Yeah.
I was just thinking, okay, well, when else am I going to get a chance to do this?
Hmm.
I mean, I think I'm pretty wise and I don't put myself in situations where, it would cause, something horrible happening. So I was pretty wise. I didn't stay out late. I would
Hmm.
always come back to the hostel, maybe, before the sun goes down and things like that. So I just wanted to explore. I wanted to travel. And so I would always, text my family, let them know where I was. But I think if you're careful, if you're wise, then you should be okay.
Oh, that's great. Speaking of Italy, my sister lives there, so in Vicenza, and earlier this year I went there for the first time, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And it was almost every part of it is different and has its own unique culture as
Wow.
well.
Italy's one of
Um,
my favorites.
Absolutely. So I know you also went to Colombia.
Hmm.
How was that? Because again, you hear about Colombia from a media perspective and the gangs and violence in Medellin and some of these other areas.
Yeah.
What was that decision that made you go to Colombia?
I went there for my 26th birthday and I realized, wow, I love Colombia. The people are very nice. Colombians
Mm.
are just very, very nice people. And since I knew a bit of Spanish, so the thing is, I've always wanted to live internationally. And
Okay.
after my study abroad program, I thought that I was going to go to Germany because I was like, man, I love this opportunity to just study abroad, but it was only 3 months. And so I wanted to do this again or do that again, but for like a year. And just like as an adult, because I was with the host family
Hmm.
3 months. So I thought it was going to be in Germany. I started learning a bit of German. And so I went to Colombia for my 26th birthday and I loved it. I fell in love. And I'm like, well, it's a Spanish speaking country. So I get to be immersed in the culture and I get to learn Spanish. And so I was like, yeah, this is going to be it for me. I love Colombia. Colombia has a special place in my heart. As a matter of fact, I hope to visit every month. I mean, not every month, every year, every year.
Hmm. Hmm.
And again, I didn't really experience, the craziness, but then also I didn't stay like in the hood
Yeah.
of Colombia.
Right. Right.
But I also did not stay in where a lot of the expats were. My neighborhood, and I intentionally chose this. It was in Los Colores,
Hmm.
which is a lot of locals. It's not where the expats and all those
Yeah.
foreigners are. But it's, it's good. It's like a nice upscale place for like the locals. And so I was surrounded by Colombians, and I loved it. I loved it. But again, I was wise. I didn't stay out too late. I met, expat friends as well. I wish I would have
Mhm.
made more Colombian friends. I met some people, but a lot of the people I hung around with were also other expats. And yeah, you just use your wisdom, like I have common sense for a reason.
That's great. So, I mean, being in Colombia, because you were there, what, for
A
2
year.
months? A year. Wow,
Mhm,
a year.
mhm.
And what were some eye-opening things that just now to this day you think back that wow, I didn't know that about Colombia. This is what I heard, but this was what was eye-opening. I know you mentioned that the people are super friendly and nice. What were some of the other things, maybe food, other things that you enjoyed about Colombia?
The food actually surprised me. I won't lie. Not in the best way. It's not the worst. It's there's some
Wow.
things that I love, like arepa de chocolo. I love that. However, in my mind, I was thinking, I think I had maybe like Mexico in mind, and so I was thinking, okay, spice and fajitas and all these
Yeah.
things. And Colombians were like, oh no, we do not do spicy.
Really?
They don't do spicy. And so I was like, wow. Yeah, so I cooked a lot, but I did enjoy, some things, but that shocked me because I was thinking this was about to be this just burst of flavors, and I wasn't gonna know what to do with myself. And they're like, no, we just salt, a little bit of black pepper because even some those corns are a little bit too spicy for some of them. And yeah,
That is that's wild because I would have thought it'd been close to maybe Peruvian food or something, but yeah, no, okay,
and then also the fact that me and Colombia, I blend in pretty well, and people, you would be surprised, right? You would think,
really,
yeah, I blend in pretty well, especially if I have like braids or something. Nobody thinks that I'm American. I mean, unless maybe they've been to America or they've watched
yeah,
American, maybe just the way I carry myself. But I mean, I try to do a good job of blending in wherever I go if I can. And they wouldn't know that I was not Colombian until maybe I started to speak.
that is interesting.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Yeah, they would speak to me in Spanish, and then they would realize, oh, okay. Even with my Spanish, they could tell that my accent,
They could tell.
Mhm.
So you mentioned you've been in Europe, you've been in Colombia,
Mhm.
and probably that's what the name came from. Tell me about this International Slay Mama. Where did that come from?
Funny enough, it was not intentional at all.
Yeah,
I knew it came from a braider skit. So the skit that I did was this African braider. She tells you she knows how to do a style, but obviously she's just trying to take your money. And so I knew when I did that skit, I was gonna say "slay mama" as a way to like gas the girl. Like even though I messed up your hair, I'm
right.
still gonna take your money, so I'm gonna praise you and all that. And so, funny enough, I think right before I did that skit, I was talking to one of my friends, and she was talking to her little son, and she was just kind of praising him. His name is Noble, and she was like, "Oh no, no, international," just kind of like giving him his little titles. And
Yeah,
so when I recorded my skit, I just added that to whatever I was gonna say, and it just came out as International Slay Mama, and it just ran. People just ran with it. And so I think it's really ironic because I wasn't even thinking about travel when I
yeah.
was saying that. And so it's funny how I love travel, and it just works. It just works. And so it's a phrase it's here to stay.
Well, that's what they say. You speak stuff into existence. So you said it, and look at you. You're definitely internationally known. So
Yeah.
that's
So
amazing. How important is it for women to travel, um, whether it's alone with others? I mean, how important would you say it is to just really experience travel outside of where people outside of their zip code, if you will?
Ooh, for me, traveling is one of life's biggest and best teacher.
Mhm.
And so I learned so much, just even the little things. Like for example, in Colombia, they have a culture of like we in America, we don't realize how much we slam doors, like car doors. And I know it's a little thing, but in Colombia, they're very careful about their belongings, and they take pride, if they buy, because here we buy credit, but there a lot of the times they're going to pay for it in full.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the Uber drivers will have, please, please don't slam the door, because and it's just a cultural thing. We don't even think about how we just be slamming doors up and down. However, I do think it's important to travel because you learn so much about how the other half lives and a lot about yourself as well. And I
Mhm.
think it gives you like this sense of confidence, a sense of self confidence. And I remember when I was in Maryland, I was in an Uber and I was talking to this guy. He had like a Guyanese flag. And, I like culture. I'm like, I may want
Yeah.
to travel to Guyana one of these days. And so I was asking him about his, Guyana. And he was like, he could tell that I'm someone who travels because a lot of people who travel are just naturally curious about
Yes.
other cultures and
Yes.
things. And so, yeah, he says he can tell that those who really haven't traveled much, they just kind of come in. They don't really care to have like any kind of conversation. They put the AirPods in, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I just think it makes you curious, and it just gives you this self confidence, this boost. Like if I can, me at what 20 something, if I can go and travel to Italy and the Czech Republic and make my way, figure out how to take the trains and all these things and
Mhm.
figure out what my
Mhm.
hostel is, even with the language barrier, it's like you know, when
Yeah.
it comes time to do something small, like why am I so afraid? I backpacked by myself.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And you continue to stretch your mind. You continue to
Exactly.
challenge yourself. You spoke about culture, coming from Nigeria and with of course your parents. How do you ensure that you maintain that authenticity, that Nigerian culture? Of course, you're doing the skits talking about Nigeria and America or anything else, any other place. But how do you ensure that you always have that authenticity um, uh, at the core of who you are? Because sometimes, as individuals, that can get lost.
Oh, yeah. Well, so in my everyday life, I'm big on community. And I don't
Mhm.
know if it's just the Igbo in me, but I think it's good to be connected to people who are from where you're from. And so we have like different organizations in the Houston area. So I try to help out with what I can. Like right now, I'm helping one of the organizations out with like promoting a yam festival. And so I'm doing like the drama portion, like, I'm kind of helping them with the advertisement. And we even have things like, learning my language. I know my language, or I understand my language, but I'm not as confident with speaking it. And so
Mm,
we come together, we do these things, you hang out with people that are from where you're from, you learn things about your culture that you didn't even know before. And so I think it's really good to stay connected and also traveling back, whenever I can. I mean, some people are afraid to travel back, but my family is back home.
yeah.
So I want to travel. I want to, know more about my country. I want to be close to my family because we're just so rich in culture. And I feel like if that connection starts, becoming lost, it dies out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love that you said that because I know for me personally, speaking Chui, it's hard for me to do it, but
mm,
I understand it really well.
yeah,
And that was in talking to my mom the other day. She was like, "Oh, that was one of my biggest regrets that we spoke English to you guys as
yeah,
kids and we didn't speak the language." So it's interesting as you mature, you want to know, you want to speak uh,
exactly.
your language as well.
Yeah,
Um, Talk to me. I think I read somewhere about this a vision for down the road having scholarships for women to travel.
right.
Is that something you're still looking at?
That's something that's still in my heart.
Mhm.
I just have to figure out like the logistics. But normally, if something stays in my heart for long enough, I'm going to work on. I'm going to do it because I know what travel and studying abroad did for me.
Mhm.
I feel like it just opened up this whole new world, and so I would love to give that to a young lady to travel as well. Because when I was getting ready to do study abroad, I almost didn't do it because I was like, oh, it's going to be expensive, and I don't know if I can afford this. And so if I can kind of alleviate someone of that stress, or just reduce the cost in any way,
Yeah,
so that they can experience that. I think that's something that would make me happy because I know how it is to be in that position.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And looking in the future, I mean, what are some of the things that you aspire to gain or learn? Like, what's your projects and things that you're working on down the road?
I know I want to do something for Nigeria specifically, like the country.
Mm,
I want to better the country in some way. I was thinking of like a cleanup project for like the city, but that seems like such a big task because it's not a big task. I think the reason it's a big task is because you have to change the mindset of the
yeah.
people. So here in Texas, we have "Don't mess with Texas," and
Mhm.
I've been knowing this since I was a kid. So I can drink this bottle of water, but I'm not just going to throw it out of my car because "Don't mess with Texas" has been instilled in my mind. I know that I'm going to get a fine if I do that.
Yeah.
And so when I went to Nigeria, and every time I would finish something, I would hold on to it. And my auntie was, oh, throw that thing now. What are you holding on to it for? And I couldn't do it. Although, I'm seeing other bottles and things on the ground. I'm like, I can't, I don't feel right doing this because I wouldn't do this back home.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I feel like we have to change the mindset, um, because I'm just like, this country is too beautiful, it's too rich to not have it be a place where tourists can just come and visit and things like that. There's so much potential, so many resources. So and just being a traveler, I'm like, I travel to all these European places. I want to travel in my own. I want to
Mm, yeah.
explore, different parts of Nigeria, and it's possible. It's gonna take work,
Yeah.
but it's not impossible. So
I know, absolutely. I think about places like Rwanda, where I hear it's super clean, and I think large portions of the country. I don't know if it's every other week they go and actually start cleaning up. And like
wow,
you said, it is a mindset thing. So maybe it is slowly starting with the family and be like, hey, don't throw that away. And I feel the same way going to Ghana and visiting. There's so much opportunity, and I know people go and visit, but
yeah,
at the same time, there's even more for the country to give. Um,
exactly,
what are
exactly.
you thinking when it comes to whether it's movies or just going on tour with what you're doing? Are
Yeah.
those things that you would aspire or be open to doing?
So I tell people all the time I don't do stand up comedy, and people just assume that I do. I have to tell them
Right.
I do stand up. Not that I can't, but
Yeah.
it's just, there's a science to stand up, and so my expertise is in sketch comedy.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wouldn't mind writing and producing. I think I see myself doing that. A bit of acting as well. Why not? Why not? Life is short. I want to use all my gifts. I'm
Uh,
using it now. True.
you are. You are. And you're absolutely using your gift to inspire people as well, which I think it's definitely commendable.
Yeah.
And to kind of like wrap up, what would you say to women out there, from a travel perspective, or just individuals who are unsure, they're so caught up in what they hear versus actually taking that step to just do it like you did. The opportunity presented itself when you were in school, and you
Right.
just threw that backpack on. What would you say to
Yeah.
let people do it?
I mean, there are things to be feared in every continent, every country.
Mhm.
So I guess if someone is just super afraid of traveling, alone, I would say find a travel group first,
Mhm.
and find your travel group and see if you can travel with one or two people, explore the country. Don't just stay on the resort, right? But then also don't go to like the favelas and the hood. But do your research,
Right.
and just explore and have an open mind when you do. Don't travel and be asking, oh, where are the chicken tenders? And okay, if they bring something that looks a little funny, you don't, even if you don't have to eat it, even if you don't want to eat it, you don't have to insult it either,
Yes. Yeah.
and just be open to try different foods. Sometimes, especially with social media, I feel like we travel. We travel to oppress other people. We go there. We only want to stay where the Americans are. We only want to eat the American foods and go to the
Mhm.
KFC. I don't want to eat. I don't even eat KFC here. I don't. I want to try the local foods. Where are the best local foods? That's where I want to go. I want to experience their culture. How do they live? Are there any like festivals? And
Mhm.
where are the markets? That's where I want to go. So that's why I consider myself more of a traveler rather than a tourist.
No, and that's a difference. I love that. Tourist versus a traveler, and one of the most important things I think you just touched on is respecting their culture.
Exactly.
Respecting their culture. Don't think that you can take what you've learned and go over
Exactly.
there and try to change.
Mm.
because you want democracy or something. You've got to respect the culture.
Yeah,
What would
because
you go ahead?
I was going to say a lot of times, especially as Americans, we can be very entitled. We'll go somewhere and let's say the Wi-Fi is not the strongest and we're complaining. And I'm just like, well, I mean, you're like in the middle of the woods. You should be even lucky that there's even one bar and you're not even here for that anyway. And so there are a lot of conveniences that we have here. Whenever I travel, I shift my mindset, to adapt to wherever I am. Don't come with that American mindset and think that people are going to cater to you. Definitely not like in a place like Paris. They're not even going to pay you any mind. And so
Absolutely.
definitely have an open mind when you travel.
Absolutely. And real quick, I know you touched on food. Tell me some of your places that you've traveled that you were like, this dish right here is unforgettable. What were some of the places that you tried dishes that you loved?
Surprisingly, everything I tried in Portugal was amazing.
Mm,
Every
really?
it was every single dish in Portugal. There was like this place. It was a burger. Like this is when I studied abroad. We
Mhm.
took a trip to Portugal. There was this place that's known for its burger. It's like one of the Guinness Book of World Records, and that burger was huge. And I'm not really a burger person.
Yeah.
That burger was good. It was
Really?
good. I also had seafood there. I had three meals while I was in Portugal. Every single meal was superb. I was like, wow.
Wow. Wow.
And Hong Kong had one of the best ramen that I've ever tasted.
Really?
Yes, in Hong Kong.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
even to a point where I'm like, I don't even want to try any here because I don't want to be disappointed.
That's
Uh,
kind of like when we went to Italy and tried the pasta and some of the stuff there. And after that, I was like, nope. Or
where
gelato, Italy, or
gelato?
gelato. Yes, gelato in Italy. I was like, after that, no, I don't want to even try it.
I want to go back to Italy to experience um, pasta, maybe because I was just a broke college student at the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe I didn't go to the best places, but I think now, knowing what I know now, I would want to do my research and find out, hey, where do the locals go? Don't tell me where
yeah,
the tourists. I want to know where the locals
yes,
to get their
yeah,
pasta.
yeah. And my sister did take us to a place where the locals went, and
Yeah,
amazing,
yeah,
absolutely amazing.
yeah,
Well, it's definitely been a pleasure. Like I said, you're inspiration to a lot of people, and it's amazing when people identify their gifts and use it to make changes in people's lives. It's as a testimony,
yeah.
and you're providing that for a lot of people. So I definitely appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me too.
Absolutely, and uh, wish you good luck in all you're doing. And like I said, you're definitely an inspiration to a lot.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Rest, and
Yes,
then get ready for your next challenge, whatever it is.
yes. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Take bye, bro.